Hello dear children, we will continue today with our revision of first chapter and we will proceed to 1.3 Development in Scientific Perspective in Europe and Historiography. Now development in scientific perspective. Europe had achieved remarkable progress till 18th century in the field of philosophy and science. Scholars belonging to one school of thought presented the idea of applying this knowledge of scientific method to study social and historical truth. Now, in this during till the end of the 18th century, we have seen that there were many remarkable philosophers who has given their theories, different theories in the field of philosophy, and therefore the scholars thought that they should apply this idea to or apply this method of scientific knowledge to the uh, social study of social and historical truths. After that, discussions were focused on the objectivity in history and historiography. History gained importance over the philosophical discourses and divine phenomena. So now, therefore, when it was connected or when it was tried to relate or present the idea applying the knowledge of scientific method, it gave a focus and it gave an importance to the subjects like history and historiography. History gained importance over philosophical discourse and divine phenomena. Now in 1737 CE, the Göttingen University was founded in Germany, which had an independent department of history. So the importance of history grew so much that there was a separate department for history in the Göttingen University. In the year 1937 it was started. Later, German universities became centers of historical studies. Later on, there were many German universities which gave importance to the study of history. Annales School. At the dawn of the 20th century, a new school of historiography arose in France, and it was known as the Annales School. Now, what was the peculiarity of the Annales School? That an idea was put forward that history is not just about political events, kings, great leaders, wars, politics and diplomacy, but it is also about climate, local people, agriculture, trade, technology, means of communication, social divisions and their collective psychology, etc. So a wider concept of history was studied by this Annales School. This was the peculiarity of it, and it earlier history was only confined to the political events. Then local people, to the kings, their great leaders, how they fought the wars, about the policies they adopted, about the diplomacy they adopted, or how they ruled, what was their wars which they prominent wars which they fought, how they annexed their kingdom. So it was more focused on them, but later on it had a wider perspective. Its purview expanded, and it was also the topics like climate, local people, agriculture, trade, technology, means of communication, social division and their collective psychology. All these such type of subjects were also included into the study of history. The French historians were the pioneers of the Annales School. It was dominated, or it was initiated by the French historians. Annales School was initiated or put forth or took the leadership or were the first. The French historians were the first to first historians of the Annales School. Feminist historiography. The restructuring of the history from the perspective of women is called feminist historiography. Now again, earlier times we know women were very treated quite differently than men. It was all a male dominated society, and so feminist historiography was also gaining importance as there was development in the field of history. So now there was a different perspective or different thought process wherein they thought that feminist historiography should also be given importance. So the history wherein women was also given importance, or the perspective of women, the problems of the women or their greatness or their expectations, so when it was related to history, it was known as feminist historiography. This thought was propounded by French feminist scholar Simone de Beauvoir. Now, this concept of feminist historiography was found, and it was further taken, given importance, or it was more spoken about and was given more emphasis by a French feminist scholar, by a French female scholar. Her name was Simone de Beauvoir. Feminist historiography emphasized to include women in history and to rethink on the male dominated perspective of history. So till now it was more male dominated, it was more about men. So it was first time focused that, or it was given emphasis that even the women should be included in history and they should be given importance as well. Later, many aspects of women's life became focus of historical research, such as their employment, their role in trade union, family life, etc. Earlier, it was a struggle for including the women into history, but later on, the perspective or the concept increased so widely that it also focused on the employment of the women, their role in the trade union, and their family life, and many other such topics. After 1919, women were portrayed as an independent class. Later on, women were considered, or they were looked upon as an independent class, as a different segment of the society, and they were also given importance. Later on in this chapter, we have also discussed about notable scholars in Europe. So one of the prominent scholars was René Descartes. He was born in 1596 and he died in 1650. The major work which he had done, or the book which he had written, was Discourse on the Method. He belonged to the country France, and the thoughts or information which he had put forward was, it is important to verify the reliability of the historical sources, especially historical documents, by critical examination. So it was he who emphasized on the critical examination of the historical documents before they were included in history or as a source of historical resource. It was its reliability or its authenticity should be verified. Never to accept anything as truth till all grounds of doubt are excluded. So he also put forward the concept that till the extent all the doubts are cleared, there is no doubt, when till to the extent like we are 100% sure about it, that thing should not be included into history. The next notable scholar was Voltaire. He was born in 1694 and he died in 1778. He belonged to the country France, and his thoughts were, he opined that in historiography the focus should not be only on objective truth or chronology of historical events. So he felt, or was of the opinion that historiography should not only focus or should not give importance only on the chronology of historical events. Chronology is in the sequence which they occurred. The sequence, according to him, was not really so very important. Prevalent social traditions, trade, economy, agriculture should also be considered as important part of it. So at that particular moment, or at that particular time, which era we are discussing about history, in that era, what were the social traditions, what were the trade, economy, agriculture, all these points should also be considered as an important part of that particular era of history. Understanding all the aspects of human life is important for history writing. He also emphasized on the fact that all the aspects, all the things which affect directly or indirectly to the humans should also be considered in history writing. He is known as the founder of modern historiography because this concept was quite new. Till then, nobody had opined or given such opinion of history wherein human aspect or economy, trade, all these should be given importance. If you see, this was a quite new concept, and therefore he was known as the founder of the modern historiography. The next scholar which we discussed in the lesson was George William Frederick Hegel. He had written two quite well-known prominent books like Encyclopedia of Philosophical Sciences and Reason in History. He was born in 1770 and he died in 1831. He was a German scholar, and he had given so many different concepts to history. His contribution of history is really great, and so what all he had contributed to history is, so historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. Whenever something related to historical things is presented, he felt that the reality should be expressed in a logical manner. It should be logically true. The order of historical events are indicative of progress. So he feels that if we study the history, like if we study the ancient history, then the medieval history, and then the modern history, then we can understand that there was quite a lot of difference, or there was quite a lot of development in the field of history as well. So he feels that if the order of historical events give us an indication about the progress. Over a period of time, the presentation of history will definitely change as new evidences come forth. Now, why the chronology was not considered important earlier by the scientist Voltaire, by the scholar Voltaire, because he thought that, as even Hegel accepts or agrees, that he says that there might be new concepts or there might be new findings which come forth in the later part. So it is not really very easy to chronologically arrange that, and so he says that the presentations in history will change because you need to include them in history, keep on adding on to the earlier findings. In order to understand true nature of a thing, one needs to know both the sides, that is true and false or good and bad. Now he says, if we have to understand the true nature of a thing, we must understand both the sides of it. Like if we know we should know the opposites. Like if we know the true, we should know the false also. If we know the good, we should know the bad also. And when we know both the concepts, then only it will be possible for us to differentiate very easily what is good and what is bad, what is true and what is false. This method of analysis, which is based on opposites, is known as dialectics. In this theory, first a theory is proposed which is called thesis, while another contrary theory is called antithesis is proposed. So according to him, a first theory is proposed which is called as thesis, and then there is one theory which says exactly the opposite to it, and that is called as antithesis. Finally, after thorough discussion on both, a new thesis having a gist of both is arrived, called synthesis. And finally, after discussing both the theories, considering both the theories of thesis and antithesis, including all the important points of the thesis and antithesis, a third different story is a third different gist or the summary of both is arrived at, and that is known as the synthesis. This is a very important contribution, and this is quite frequently asked in the board exams. So Hegel's theory is very important, which you should pay attention on to. The next scholar which we have discussed is Leopold von Ranke. His contribution in the work of books is the books which he has contributed is The Theory and Practice of History and The Secret of World History. He was also a German scientist, a German scholar, and the thoughts or information which he put forward is he gave a lot of importance to information gathered through original documents. He also stated that all types of documents related with the historical events should be examined minutely with great care. He believed that it was possible to reach the historical truth with this method. He also stated that he criticized imaginative narration of historical events. He says that whatever was the truth, only that should be included, and that should be checked very minutely, very carefully, and very with great care, and also the original or authenticate documents or whatever things related to history are gathered, that should be preserved very carefully. And he was also strictly against the imaginative is not true, which can be imagined and written or narrated, the historical events which are imagined and narrated. He influenced historical writings of the 19th century. His writings were so influential that the 19th century writings were influenced by him. The next scholar which we discussed is Karl Marx. He was born in 1818 and he died in 1883. His famous contribution was Das Kapital, and he was also a German scholar. And what he has to state differently or more prominently is history is not about abstract ideas but about living people. So he says that history is not about some non-living thing or imaginative things, but it is about the living people. So human relations are formed not only by the fundamental needs of people and the ownership, but also by the prevalent means of production to meet those needs. Now, according to him, he divided the entire society or entire people into two groups. One, he says, are the people who are who contribute to the production of the needs of the people, and then there is another group which is a larger group which is contributed by the people who need the group, so need the things. So one is the needy people, and the other group, he says, is the people who produce it or make it available for the needy people. The class which owns the means of production exploits the rest of the classes. So he says that the people who own the things, who own the means of production, they exploit, they cruelly treat the people who do not have, or rather all the other classes are dominated by the people who contribute to this class, that is the production section. The uneven distribution of means of production in the society leads to class struggle, and therefore he says because the society is not equally divided, there is differentiation in the division of the society on the basis of availability of means and the requirements. He says because of that, that leads to the class struggle. The last scholar which we have discussed is Michael Foucault. He was born in 1926 and he died in 1984. His contribution in the form of book was The Archaeology of Knowledge. He was a French philosopher, a French scholar. His thoughts or the information he contributed to history was to present history in chronological order is not right. He believed that writing history or presenting history in a chronological order in a sequence is not correct. The objective of archaeology is not to reach ultimate historical truth but to explain the various transition in the past. So he feels that the objective of archaeology is not to get the extreme historical truth, but he says it should explain the transition, the transformation in the past. He acknowledged that the subjects such as science of medicine, psychological disorders, prison administration are valid for historical analysis. So he felt that science of medicine or psychological disorders or prison administration, so topics like these which not only physically but mentally impact a person are also equally important and should be included in the historical analysis. So this is all that we have discussed in the first chapter. I hope it helps you to recollect what we have studied. Thank you so much.